Hi, this is Starkey Sowers. Welcome again to another Plus Program training series. Got a unique one for you today. We're going to talk about the immune system. So when you think of the immune system, oftentimes we have a tendency to think of like sickness, colds and flus and things of that nature. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break down the immune system, give you a little idea on what it is and how it functions. One of the things I like to talk about the immune system is what helps us be protected, so to speak, against the outside world. So any type of pathogen that might actually enter inside the body, such as like a virus or a bacteria or a fungus, or maybe some type of a protozoa, all those things are actually handled by the immune system. We'll give you a little bit of idea about that. So first thing, let's look at the integumentary system. The integumentary system technically becomes part of the immune system. And what it does is it protects us from the outside world of things actually penetrating or getting in. So the integumentary system is the skin, as well as the lungs and the lining of the lungs and the nasal cavity, as well as the digestive tract. Believe it or not, we have hydrochloric acid would actually prevent certain bacteria from actually being able to live in our environment. Remember, we've got all these pathogens around us all the time, but also remember that our body is designed to deal with it. All right, so when we look at the immune system, let's look at a couple different things. I like to just, what I do is like to look at the parts and the pieces. I think it's important for us to understand the parts and pieces of that. So the parts and pieces of the immune system are the thymus gland, and that's where we get actually the production of the T cells. And then you look at the spleen, and the spleen is a very unique organ itself. It's actually part of the digestive system and as well as the lymphatic system. And so the blood actually goes through there and gets cleansed, and red blood cells actually get removed when they're worn out, as well as it also helps to produce immunity. And it helps to kind of trap different types of bacteria and any type of fungus and things of that nature. All right. So then next on the list, we also have the lymphatic system, as we kind of alluded to a little bit with the spleen, which actually becomes kind of like part of the lymphatic system. We have what was known as the lymphatic vessels, and those vessels are 2 to 3 times the length of the vascular system. So you think about that. The vascular system's huge, and we've got a lymph system that actually has like a milky substance that gets pushed through that lymph vessel, and water actually enters into it. As a lot of things are trapped, bacteria is trapped, anything that maybe has escaped. This is kind of the cleansing ground or the garbage disposal of the system, so to speak. So what's unique about the lymph system is it actually has glands, and those glands actually trap bacteria, and then it actually kind of mounts up any type of warfare that is needed for things that might be trapped in the lymphatic system. So one thing to remember about the lymphatic system, like the circulatory system, which has the heart to pump it, the lymphatic system is a little bit different. It has a pump as well too, but that pump, so to speak, is actually muscular contraction. So if the body's moving on a regular basis, it actually helps to move those fluids. And if the body's not moving, guess what? It becomes actually very stagnant. So exercise becomes an extremely critical component when helping to maintain a good, healthy immune system. So last on the list, we have the bone marrow. And the bone marrow is where the white and the red blood cells were actually started or manufactured originally. So having a healthy bone marrow becomes very critical for the function of a healthy immune system. So what happens if a pathogen or invader actually gets into the body? So when we think of that, when the pathogen gets in, their body has about 3 major responses. So it's kind of broken down the first line of defense, which was the integumentary system, and it's actually invaded into our system now. So we've got to have something to deal with that. So first on the list is inflammation. Oftentimes the body responds with an inflammatory response. And a lot of times you might have had like an allergic response, and it kind of gives you an idea what an inflammation response is. Your nose gets kind of runny and stuffed up and things of that nature. And so that allergic response becomes very critical. It does a couple different things. Number one, it kind of holds that pathogen in suspension, so to speak, and allows the immune system to start to work. So the second response the body can have is what is known as a humoral immunity response. And so in that humoral immunity, that means it's in the water area or the aqueous areas. And what the body does is it actually responds through a couple different mechanisms, and there's a couple results. Number one, the first result is it has a tendency to produce what we call an antigen that's kind of designed specifically for that antibiotics. So anytime you actually re-ingest that or actually get re-exposed to that antibiotic, the body's already kind of got a memory system and it's ready to go to attack it. And what the antigen does is it kind of presents itself, so to speak, and it attracts other different types of immunological factors as well as inflammatory factors to actually kill and destroy it. And then last on the list is what we call T cells, or the cell-to-cell mediated immune response. And so this is a little bit different and it takes a little bit longer. By the way, just a real quick note, the allergic response can happen in a matter of seconds. And when it comes to the humoral immunity, it's within a matter of minutes. Well, the T cell response usually takes anywhere from 24 to 36 hours. And so what happens here is, let's say, for instance, a virus has come in and it's been actually identified and there's been an antigen released and it kind of triggered some of the immune response. But let's say this virus has gone a little bit further and actually infected a couple cells. And now it's in the cells and it actually kind of taken over the machinery, so to speak, and it's got that cell producing more of its virus. And that's a full-blown viral attack. Well, what happens with the T cell is it might do a couple different things. It might come along and attract some other different types of macrophages and things of that nature, not only to attack or might kind of work around the cell, but it actually might do something else a little bit unique. It actually might ask that cell to die. So it kind of stimulates like an action on the cell to kill it and actually have the cell kind of die within itself. So that kind of gives you a rounded perspective. 3 responses that we typically see. Going to be some inflammation. We're also going to see what we call a B cell response or a humoral immunity response. And then finally a T cell. And the body's got all those things working on a regular basis. So that kind of gives you a good setup, so to speak, for what the immune system does and how it works. And the next segment, what we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about how to keep it healthy. So that'll kind of wrap up this session, and we'll see you next month.